With the incomings in this transfer window, we must also consider the top five players that United should sell no matter what. Number one on my list is Garnacho. He may not be the most technically gifted footballer, but there are multiple reasons why United should look to ship him off first. Number one, the fact that he's a homegrown player. The thing with a homegrown player is whatever money you recoup, that turns into pure profit. So you can use exactly that amount into your transfer budget. So in the case of Garnacho, the valuation that United and Ineos are quoting him at is about 70 million pounds. Now, I'm pretty sure you don't think, or neither do I, that we're going to get that 70 million pounds. Let's go closer to 40 million pounds or 45 million pounds. If we can get 45 million pounds from Garnacho, the number one benefit that we get is that we can use that 45 million pure profit. It's not like any amount is going to get amortized or reduced. We can use that 45 million completely to our transfer budget. Number two, the main reason I would say is controversy. Whether it's just, whether it's not. Like, for instance, just the other day, there was news about Garnacho wearing Rashford's t-shirt. Now, I don't find anything wrong with Garnacho wearing Rashford's t-shirt because that could just be a friend supporting another friend. And that could be all. But we all know there are points where Garnacho's criticism is justified. Things where he has problems with the managers, he has problems with the players, he criticizes them openly, and he's not shy of staying away from the limelight when he's not playing well. And I feel at United, we don't need these kind of players anymore. We need a cultural reset, which is why we're buying players like Cunha and Buemo, people who are just dedicated to playing football. Ahmad, Kobe, Zirkzee, Euro, the list can go on. But we're going to buy players that are mostly focused on just playing football. And if that's the case, Garnacho should pretty much move on. Number two, Onana. Onana has had good moments, but he's had some horrible moments as well. Moments I point out, Bayern Munich game, Galatasaray, Copenhagen early on. And even this season, we can go on and we can look at the amount of goals that we've conceded. There are moments like the Morgan Gibbs-White goal that he scored at Old Trafford. Should never happen. But because of Onana's slippery fingers, the ball slips through his hand. We can all agree he is arguably one of the worst keepers that have ever started for Man United. And the fact that it doesn't even matter what amount we're looking at. We're not looking at a big amount to sell Onana. We would happily take 20 million euros or even 15 million euros. All we want is to ship him on, buy a new keeper, which could be Emi Martinez, which could be the Atalanta keeper. It could be a number of names, but all we want is a new number one. And is Onana reliable? No. Are the players around him reliable? Not so far. But we all know that if it had been a different keeper, if our fortunes were different, we could have had better luck, better fortunes, better points, and better results. Number three, Jadon Sancho. A player that I really liked, a player we brought in for 75 million pounds with promise, who was supposed to be the next big English talent, the guy who was meant to be, along with Harry Kane, along with Marcus Rashford, the future of England's attack. But unfortunately, for reasons in his control, out of his control, struggles with mental health and issues with Ten Hag, ultimately Sancho could never get that spot that he really wanted in the United team. 23-24, he was axed by Ten Hag from the squad. He was not allowed to be anywhere near them, even though there were other players who were doing the same thing. And then in January, he went on loan to Dortmund. And he performed at Dortmund. In fact, he took them all the way to the Champions League final. On the way, even cooking Nuno Mendes. So he was actually performing. Now he comes back. And in the 24-25 season, Jadon Sancho was shipped off to Chelsea on loan, thinking it was a loan with an obligation to buy, being that Chelsea finishes above 14th place. But ultimately, that happens. And apparently there was a clause where, despite it being an obligation, they could terminate or they could violate that clause with a 5 million penalty, though it didn't make sense to start with. But Chelsea paid that 5 million and now Sancho is back to us. There are offers from Fenerbahce, offers from Juventus. And at this point, the way the club is moving, even if Sancho is a good player, the time has sailed for him, unfortunately. I would have loved for him, even now, if he could have clicked. But there are different factors in the club, fans, and everybody associated with United would not accept Sancho. So I think it is best for both of us to part ways. Sancho goes his own way. We get our money and then maybe reinvest, or we're just making back some of the money that we invested in Sancho, even though ultimately it would be a loss. Number 4, Rasmus Hojlund, another player that we signed for such a large transfer fee, who came in with a lot of promise. We saw him at Atalanta, was a technical striker. He could finish. He had the attributes to succeed. That's what we thought. He comes on in his first game against Arsenal. And he actually does surprisingly well. He should have earned a penalty. He didn't. He got the ball. He played technically decent. And he even got an assist for Garnacho. But the Garnacho goal was offside. And then we lose the game. But Hojlund had a first few good games. Even though he didn't score, he played pretty decent. But when you play decent, you also need goals to back up your numbers. And that's what didn't happen in Hojlund's case. Because he was scoring in the Champions League. And he was scoring strikers, number 9 finishes. But in the Premier League, he just couldn't hack it. It just wasn't working for him. And then he scores against Villa. And then suddenly, between January to about February, he scores in 7 or 6 Premier League games in a row. And suddenly we think, you know what, Hojlund has arrived. Now he's going to kick on and he's going to actually show us why we invested 75 million. Turns out that wasn't the case. And months later, here we are trying to sell him for whatever money we can because we know that this is arguably one of the worst players to ever play in our history for us. Now, what do you think should be a decent valuation for Hojlund? Would you accept 30 million? Would you accept 40 million? Would you even accept 20 million? Because in my eyes, all I see is if we get rid of Hojlund, we could go and invest our money into a proper striker. Even if Zirkzee should start, we still need another profile of striker next to Zirkzee, behind Zirkzee. And that I would argue is somebody like Victor Gyökeres, somebody like Mateta. And if we can sell Hojlund and get back some money, again, some money that we invested in him, even if it's a loss, we get back some money, I'll be happy to take it because we flopped terribly with that signing. And you know what? It's time to move on with Hojlund. And number 5, a very similar player, but on the contrary, who has actually performed very well on loan, is Antony. Antony, another player I still feel would be amazing at wing back, especially left wing back, considering we have Dorgo at the left wing back spot. He would be a very good candidate for left wing back, but Amorim never gave him a chance. So I understand whatever it is that the club is looking at, whatever it is Amorim is looking at, it does not involve Antony in any sense. So it does not make sense to even keep Antony in the club. So might as well ship him off for, let's say, 30, 40 million, and we get that profit and we can reinvest that again to something greater. Now, even if that culminates in a loss, we have to just take that loss again. And it's all about just selling the players that we need to. Even if there are some good players, we have to look at the entire ecosystem. And sometimes you will have to take hits so that you get long-term gain. And I feel these 5 players, in one way or the other, whether they deserve to leave or they don't, they're players that we just need to part ways with. What do you guys think? Comment down below your 5 players that you would sell from United this summer and see you on the next one.